Relating Julius' childhood in Coney Island, you write on page 50, Freud once dropped in for a look during his brief stint abroad. Dollaria, he called America, in anti-paradise governed by ignorant materialism, wedded to conformity. Americans, he thought, were anal retentive sadists, hostile to pleasure, but approving of high aggression in business and politics. Is this historically accurate?
Yes, that's a quote from Freud.
What is meant by Dollaria?
He just called it Dollaria. That was his name for the country. You know, like Germania, Dollaria.
Related to the American dollar and
the concentration on money and profit and salesmanship. Yeah, that's what he called it.
Do you believe that America...
It sounds like diarrhea.
Diarrhea.
But in German, diarrhea is not that.
Do you believe that America can be distinguished from the rest of the world by ignorant materialism wedded to conformity today?
I think it's at the pinnacle of that. I think that it's been very effective in exporting that as part of American imperialism so that more and more countries could be characterized that way. So it certainly doesn't stand alone anymore. But I think Freud's characterization was very both accurate and prophetic.
I agree with you. Writers can often use personal experiences as a background for their writings. In Chapter 8, titled Taking Flight, Julius goes to study in Denmark and takes a part-time job caring for a Karen Lange. You also incorporate some Danish phrases in the text. Have you studied abroad? Why do you choose Denmark because of Niels Bohr, but perhaps you've studied abroad. Why include phrases from a minor language such as Danish in the text unless you speak Danish? Does Karen Lange relate to someone in your past?
Yes, all of that is true. I haven't studied abroad, but I've traveled with Bread and Puppet, and I have been a care person for disabled people when I was in Berkeley in seminary. And I was not a permanent care for anybody, but I was on a list for temporary to take over a job of a care provider that was, needed to not be there or was exhausted or whatever. And then one day I was took this job and found a woman that was exactly like I described this woman, a beautiful, beautiful young girl with a full-sized head and a body about that big, just like a little bird in a shell when you see a chicken, And she said, I have to go to the bathroom. Don't be embarrassed. It's very easy. Pick me up. This is what you do, etc. So here's where you wipe me and all of that. She had it down. She was very cool. The other thing was I spent once on was it a Bread and Puppet tour? Maybe it was separate, but I did spend some time, 10 days in Denmark, at the school of a very, very radical and amazingly inspiring person. And I brought that school into here. And one of the things that people study at this school, it's largely for foreigners, but they study the Danish language. And they do off-campus semesters. So Julius, when he was at this college, New Experimental College, that's real. When Julius went to New Experimental College, he was learning Danish, and then he goes to Copenhagen for his off semester, and his job in Copenhagen is this care attendant, and he's learning the language, and then he has this interaction with this beautiful young, hard to, girl. And they read together some Andersen stories, and I'm a huge fan of Andersen. And she tells him the Danish, and he reads the English. So there's this interaction, not because I want to get Danish language out there, but because that's her language, right? And in order to characterize her more sensually, I try to put that on the page.
I did something similar to that in Sweden. Studying the language abroad is an easy way to immerse yourself in a country legally. It's usually not permitted to work. And if you go simply as a tourist, you see all the tourist sites in a few days, and So I spent a year in Sweden learning the language in different locations at the Swedish folkhögskolas, each one a different summer. And that way I got to know the Swedish people, and I got to know people from other countries that were there. I thought it was a very interesting, worthwhile experience.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah, it is. Also, you know, foreign language study is really, I think, crucial to not only thinking about the world, but thinking about thinking, because it explores the hidden crevices of how we actually think in words, we think in sentences. What is the language forcing us to think because of its structures and all of that? So when you study foreign languages, all of that becomes exposed. Everything that's just so natural, you don't even think about it. Why do I say this, not that? You know. And I'm right now, my wife and I went to Germany for a month this summer, and then we went to Paris for a week, and we've gotten our German and our French language sort of up, and we are now in a German conversation group, and we're in a French conversation group, and I'm living sort of high language arts these days, just from that trip, the preparation for that trip, watching foreign language films on Netflix, and studying Russian also. So it's very interesting. It also helps my writing. You get
For the benefit of our viewers, we're both in the same French and German conversation groups. The German group meets on Wednesdays at the library, and the French group meets on Sunday afternoons at the library, and also on Tuesday evenings at Borders in Burlington.
C'est ça.
Julius, the hero of the book, is pursued by something called Gecko. Do the letters stand for the German organization, or you made that up,
I'll
right?
tell you this. It's the Geheimniskoalition.
But that's totally fictional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no real.
But there was a tie-in. Nice. I don't know when I thought of it, but Julius is interested in gravity from a child, and the book is about up and down and gravity and all of that. And on the boardwalk of Coney Island, where he grows up, he buys a gecko. And he has his pet gecko, right? He calls him Newton, right? Because he defies gravity. And he experiments as a child. The beginning of his science career is to try to figure out how geckos can stand on the ceiling and walk on the ceiling. You know, when they're heavy, it's not like a fly. Right? And so he does experiments. He does childhood experiments with his gecko. And then Gecko turns out to be this organization. It's not spelled the same way because the animal has 2 Ks and this has 1 K. But Gecko is on 2 levels of the book, which I often do.
Yeah, I always wondered why a fly or a gecko can walk around on a ceiling upside down. They must have really sticky paws. Or...
Not Gecko. It's not sticky. Fly, yes, not Gecko. Look it up.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.